And welcome back to the Old Gab Box podcast and radio show, all brought to you by our friends at Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. Gilles Gagnon was on the show just a couple of days ago. I invite you to go to YouTube and check it out as we talked about what's happening with Teeth of the Dog. It reopens in December. That's the Pete Dye Gym, the late great golf course architect, World Golf Hall of Famer, designed 4 incredible courses at Casa de Campo. The Teeth has been undergoing a renovation thanks to Jerry Pate, our friend from Alabama, Roll Tide. Again, they cut the ribbon on the reopening of Teeth of the Dog in December. I'll be down at the DR. I urge you to check out casadecampo.com for the best golf there is in the Caribbean. Great family vacation, great golf vacation. Check it out. Go to casadecampo.com. All right, some final thoughts as we put the Ryder Cup, recently finished Ryder Cup, to bed after an absolute 2-year buildup that got us all charged up. Whether you're in the media, whether you're a fan, whether you were the players participating, everybody was revved up about this Ryder Cup. I honestly thought it had the potential, and it did, to be this epic, monumental event in golf that could have been maybe the biggest thing we've ever seen in the sport. But thanks to the Euros dominating on Friday and Saturday, it just didn't live up to the hype, even though Team USA put on a nice run on Sunday, which made it interesting. But I think the reality is, in America in September, college football dominates on Saturday, and it did in the ratings, especially with the lopsided Ryder Cup going on. And Sunday belongs to the National Football League. And that's the way it always has been, and that's the way it's going to be. The Ryder Cup, for the 12 players on either team, big deal. Family, caddies, the people who were parts of those teams, big deal. There's no question about it. The Euros celebrated. Shane Lowry called it as he hit the putt, which solidified the tie and kept the Ryder Cup with the European team. He said it was the biggest moment in his life. Bigger than winning the Open Championship in Ireland. He said that was special, but this was different. So I get it. Scotty Scheffler, he was emotional. Won a big point over Rory on Sunday, and I was rooting for him. Just never really had the right guy playing alternate shot. But nevertheless, he got a little choked up talking about what it meant to play for his country. And I get all that. And I feel it. And I talk to the players and the caddies, and I know how important it is to them. But in reality, the most important thing in golf are the major championships. How many times are you winning on the PGA Tour? Are you winning big events? Are you winning the Players' Championship? Are you winning Jack's Tournament at the Memorial? Are you winning the Arnold Palmer Invitational? That's what it's all about. And when all is said and done in your golf career, for example, Jack Nicklaus, 18 major championships, 19 runner-up finishes, more top 10s in the majors than any other player, the greatest golfer of all time. Oh yeah, he participated in Ryder Cup after Ryder Cup and had a great record. And he's the guy in 1979 who appealed to the European powers that be and the governing bodies. Let's open it up outside the UK. Let's open it up to all of Europe. We need to make this Ryder Cup more interesting. Thanks to Jack, they listened. Now we have what we have. Also in 1979, they had the rule. Again, the Ryder Cup has always been, up until the last 30 or 40 years, really just an exhibition match. And that's when they had, if anybody gets injured, you rip open the envelope, and whoever that person was going to play, they each get a half a point. Hey, we're shaking hands. It's the Ryder Cup, for gosh sakes. Jack Nicklaus picked up Tony Jacklin's 5-foot putt that they called the concession, one of the greatest acts in sportsmanship in the history of the game. So it's always been, up until 3-4 decades ago, this gentleman's match. No longer. The Ryder Cup is an absolutely crazy event. But getting back to the individuals, the great Tiger Woods, 15 major championships, 82 wins, tied with Sam Snead. Played a bunch of Ryder Cups, and he's had moderate success. But again, we think of Jack, we think of Tiger, about what they did in the majors, what they did overall with their wins. We don't talk about their Ryder Cup record. Ian Poulter, for example, the ultimate journeyman in professional golf. And Ian Poulter has a win on the PGA Tour, a couple of wins on the Euro Tour, was a star on the Ryder Cup. Several Ryder Cup teams, including the Miracle at Medina in Chicago, when he was so good on Saturday, which kept the Euros in the game, and ultimately they came back on Sunday. He's the one guy, if you look at his resume, they won't talk about what he did in his career. They'll talk about the Ryder Cup. That's an exception to the rule. The majority of the players The vast majority, it's what have you done in your individual career. Zach Johnson's a perfect example. 12 victories, including the Masters and the Open Championship at St. Andrews. Played in a whole bunch of Ryder Cup teams. Winning teams, losing teams. Was the captain of a losing team in Rome. But when you talk about Zach Johnson's ultimately Hall of Fame career, you'll talk about those majors. The Ryder Cup may be a footnote. So what I'm saying is golf always has been, always will be about individual championships. And this Ryder Cup, I think, has gotten a little bit blown out of proportion. That's just me. And it gets us to the topic, did the fans go over the top in New York City? Remember, it's been a 2-year build-out, and all we've talked about is how the fans would play this pivotal role in getting the Americans the win at Bethpage Black. New York sports fans are among the most raucous in the world, no matter what sport you're talking about. They'll come out in full force. They're going to cause problems for the European team. And in reality, the European team took the crowd out of it on Friday morning and took them out of it on Saturday. The crowd did get raucous on Sunday, got caught up in the momentum, and that was fun to watch. But in reality, the crowd wasn't the factor that we thought it might be. Were they over the top? Yes, there's no question about it. But again, we're talking about this massive buildup. Emotionally, the crowd really thought they were going to be a part of it. And oh, by the way, the PGA of America, there was no limit on the number of tickets sold. Thousands upon thousands poured into Bethpage Black, paying upwards of $1,000 for a day pass, the most expensive ticket in sports, certainly golf. But one of the most expensive tickets in all of sports. Corporate sales were off the charts. I mean, the PGA of America just kept printing tickets in corporate boxes and ringing the cash register. And oh, by the way, there was no limit on alcohol sales at Bethpage Black. So you had a bad combination. You had this massive amount of people, more than they've ever had at a Ryder Cup. The vast majority were enjoying the benefits of their favorite alcoholic beverage. They were emboldened by the fact, hey, when I pay this much for a ticket, I can do what I want. We're in New York. Let's get all over these guys. Even though I love Rory, I love Shane, I love the guys in the European team. But you know what? It's us against them. I've been hearing it for 2 years. Let's yell profanities at these guys. Now, obviously, Rory, in some cases, threw it right back in the fans' faces, which created even more hyper drama. Keegan Bradley on Friday morning came out. It was still dark outside. The crowd was pouring in around 5 a.m. First tee shot, 7:15 Eastern time with Bryson DeChambeau. Keegan was on the mic getting the crowd revved up with profanities. And man, they were getting charged up. And then the PGA of America hires this comedian, this lady comedian, who used profanities against Rory on Saturday when she was supposed to just introduce the golfers on the first tee. She later bowed out and issued an apology. So what I'm trying to say is the blame is to go all around. You can't just blame the fans. Were the fans a little over the top? Yes, but there were reasons for that. I'm telling you, we've never had an emotional buildup like this before. Us against them. USA against Euros. I know we root for the European team all the time throughout the PGA Tour season in major championships, but man, they're the enemy this week. Hated to see it, and I hope it doesn't happen in 2 years, but you know and I know it is going to be over the top when the Ryder Cup goes to Ireland. And again, let the hype begin. And of course, the PGA of America, which is so many wonderful things. Obviously, they host the Ryder Cup and the PGA Championship. They're two big events. They're involved with the Ladies PGA at their new setup in Frisco, Texas. This Taj Mahal of a building with this golf course that is new and will get better with time. It'll get better with maturity. They have the Club Pro Championship. They do so much for junior golf. Yes, you have to give the PGA of America so much credit. We all have our favorite PGA professional at the club where we play, whether it's public or private. They're all over the country. They're all over the world. These men and women have dedicated their lives to the game of golf. It is awesome. They pay dues. At the same time, the PGA of America, the corporate office, the bigwigs are raking in $1 gazillion after this Ryder Cup. Are they unhappy with what the crowd did or what they said back and forth? Yes, they say they are, but in reality, the cash register is still cranking and they're still counting the receipts. This was a profitable Ryder Cup. Ugly at times, but in reality, the Euros played better than the Americans. Does it really matter? Well, for the 12 guys on the team and their caddies and their wives and the family members, yeah, it means a lot. But for you and I, the typical golf fan who goes out and loves the game, loves watching these big events, whether it's the Masters, the US Open, PGA or Open Championship, love watching the Memorial, love watching Arnold's tournament at Bay Hill, love watching the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial, one of my favorite courses, Pebble Beach. Do we like these events? We love these events. And the Ryder Cup comes along once every 2 years. Listen, I root for the Euros because I like these guys. I cover them all the time, interview them all the time. They all live in America. But every 2 years, we get this huge division and we get this great divide. So before we just keep hammering the poor behavior of the fans in New York, and yes, there were those that were over the top, there were reasons for that. You can blame a lot of people, not just the fans. I'm glad we have 2 years till the next one. And I'm glad we're back in the business in 2026 with this new PGA Tour season, because in reality, regardless of what happened in the Ryder Cup, 2025 was the best season we've had post-Tiger on the PGA Tour. Rory wins the career Grand Slam. Would he trade that in for the Ryder Cup win? No, of course not. Scottie Scheffler, 2 major championships. J.J. Spaun started 4 over at the U.S. Open final round and then came on strong, hit that 62-foot putt to secure the win on the 72nd hole at the Beast, which is Oakmont. We had great performances throughout the season, which culminated with Tommy Fleetwood. Yes, another Ryder Cupper. Tommy Fleetwood finally winning on the PGA Tour, winning the FedEx Cup. So you may remember 2025 for the Ryder Cup, and that's your prerogative. I'll remember it, but I'll think back to 2025 as being the best year on the PGA Tour post-Tiger. The Ryder Cup didn't go quite like I thought it would, this epic event. It was ugly at times, but again, we've talked about what happened in that equation. I hope we can get back to civility, which we will. And thank goodness we don't have another Ryder Cup for 2 more years. Thanks for watching, everybody. Again, it's the Old Gap Box podcast and radio show.